The Luminous Mind, episode 22.
You know, I shared that quote earlier, when you're interested, you do what's convenient. When you're committed, you do whatever it takes. I think that's just the truth to be successful in anything. I really don't care what it is. You have to be committed at a level that most people are not.
Benjamin Franklin once said, "Do not curse the darkness, rather light a candle instead." If you're ready to set your mind on fire, then prepare yourself for the Luminous Mind with your host, Rebecca Bowman.
Today's fire starter is Ty Bennett. Ty Bennett is a successful entrepreneur, best-selling author, and sought-after leadership expert who speaks to more than 100 companies annually. Ty and his wife, Sarah, live in Utah with their 4 great kids. Welcome, Ty, to the Luminous Mind.
Thank you so much for having me. Good morning.
Good morning. Yeah, it is. It's kind of early, but thank you for joining us so early. I briefly told the audience about yourself. Why don't you expound upon that just a little?
Okay. I have always kind of been entrepreneurial. I think I've always kind of classified myself that way. And so when I was in college, my brother Scott and I started a business together in direct sales. And long story short, I mean, obviously there's ups and downs in this, but we built that business to over $20 million in revenue while still in our 20s.
Holy cow.
And we built a large sales organization, and I did a lot of training for our sales organization and found that I really loved to speak and I loved to train, and that was just a passion for me. So over the last 5 years, I started a company called Leadership Inc., which is a speaking and training company, and I've written a couple of books, and that's where I spend my time. I actually sold my part of the business to my brother, and so I'm out traveling the world and speaking to organizations, and it's just a blast. I absolutely love it, and it gives me kind of a unique lifestyle because when I'm home, I get to be home, and then I travel out to give speeches and come back, and so we're building our family with those 4 little kids that you talked about. Our kids right now are from 8 down to 18 months. Yeah. So we're at the young end, and they're just getting busy into sports and all the things that we do.
So how did you get into that in such a young age? I mean, how does a college student come out and start talking about sales and leadership when you're so young?
Well, I didn't really start that until, that sounds funny because I was going to say my late 20s.
Yeah, that's so old.
Yeah, no, I know I'm on the younger end, but I was able to build a business that was very sizable and had a great real-world experience in the fact that I could share what's worked for us and the things that we were able to do to build our business. And so it's interesting because I just started putting myself out there as a speaker. And in that realm, just like in any other realm, I think if you can get people to give you a chance, if you can get people to see what you're all about, and then if you deliver value, if I show up and I do a good job speaking, they typically want to have me back. They're open to me coming back or recommending me, and it's just grown from there. So we started our business and one of the keys, I think, for me is I've always found good mentors in everything that we did. So we had some great mentors that helped us as we were building our business, and that would sit down and pick their brain and ask them, how would you do this, or how would you deal with this situation? And then as I went into speaking, I found great mentors and coaches that helped me in the same thing. And as an author, I reached out to other successful authors and wanted to learn from them. And I think that's one major key for me that I've found is very, very helpful, is I'm constantly looking for who do I want to emulate and how can I reach them and learn from them and connect with them in ways so that they can help me.
And how did you first meet some of your mentors as such a young person? Just curious.
Some were people that I knew. Some were people that I wanted to know and was creative in trying to find ways to reach them. I've found that successful people, and maybe because I was young, they were even more open to it. But I would reach out to them and just was bold enough, I guess, to ask and just say, can I take you to lunch, or can I come and interview you, or, something along those lines. I just think the honest truth is most people don't ask. And I think I have people all the time that go, I had a guy the other day, I gave a speech for a company, and this younger guy came up to me who's probably, I don't know, early 20s. And he said, I really want to be a musician. How would you go about it? And I said, well, I know nothing about music. I have the music appreciation gene. I mean, I have no musical talent. I wish I did. I said, but who do you want to be like? And he named a few people, and I said, well, call them. And he goes, well, why would they want to talk to me? And I said, why wouldn't they want to talk to you? I don't know. Just be confident and reach out to them. And I gave him a little advice, and I said, butter them up a little bit, stroke their ego, tell them how amazing they are, but not in like I'm an obsessed fan that can't have a normal conversation kind of way, but just a compliment of saying, you know what, I really look up to you, and I want to do something like what you've been able to do, and I'd love to learn from you. I just think you have so much you could teach. I mean, people love to have people want to learn from them and feel like they're special and important. I've just always, I guess, been willing to step out and do that and make connections, and most people are pretty receptive.
So do you want to tell us a little bit about your books that you've written? You have, first of all, The Power of Storytelling. Which one was first, Power of Storytelling or The Power of Influence?
Power of Influence was first. It came out 4 years ago, and then The Power of Storytelling came out about a year and a half ago. So The Power of Influence is really, I believe that leadership comes down to influence. When you think about our ability to really connect and engage and persuade anybody, that's influence. It's your ability to move people. And so I wrote that book to share some specific ideas on how to increase influence. And I share that content a lot with leadership groups and a lot with salespeople as well. And then I wrote the book, The Power of Storytelling, because when it comes to influence, I think being able to tell your story and tell stories in a way that engage people emotionally is really the most influential form of communication. It's really what moves people. And whether that's in sales or in teaching or in marketing or in leadership or in whatever capacity, just in selling yourself in an interview process, whatever it is, I think storytelling is an amazing skill set that people need to develop.
And on The Power of Influence, what's some advice that you give in that book about how to grow that power of influence and how to be a better mentor or a leader? Well,
to me, and this was a lesson that I learned at a young age, I think leadership, people who understand influence, understand this basic premise that it's not about you, it's about them. And I think that's hard. We're all selfish people. I just think that for me, when I got over the fact that it was all about me and really focused on making it about the other person, that really changed the interactions I had with people. So I share specific ideas on how you can do that to build influence. A couple of principles I teach are to focus on being interested, not interesting.
Oh,
right?
That's great.
Most of the time we try and come across as great, and we want to sound really amazing and interesting, but if we ask questions, if we listen better, if we make it about them, people love you for it. And so I talk about things that really place other people's interests first, that grow your influence, and in some ways seem counterintuitive, but when we interact with people that way, it really changes the nature of the relationship.
And one of the taglines about the Luminous Mind is that we're trying to change the paradigm of education. I know in the past I've had people approach me about, because you're doing something different and off the wall, and so people want to know. And sometimes I take that as like I get kind of defensive, because. Yeah. Some people, when they approach you, it does come as an attack of, you're doing something different, and so what I'm doing must be wrong. How can we turn that around, where we can make it a more positive experience where, instead of feeling like you're being attacked, really work to try to influence them in a way that might change their paradigm? Well,
I think one of the things that you just mentioned there is you have kind of the element of surprise and the fact that if somebody comes at you and says, "Why are you doing this?" and if you just respond in a way that catches them off guard and said, "I know, it's amazing," they would go, "What?" They would kind of look at you like, "What are you talking about?" But I think you have to really break down and look at, why are you doing what you're doing, and what are the key benefits from it. When people ask me about certain, especially as a young entrepreneur, people would tell me all the time, how are you going to even make, you're never going to build a business when you're 21 years old. And I just looked at it and said, why not? I mean, for me, I think about it. Why would I wait until I'm 30 or 40 years old to have to go after what I really want to go after, to go and build my dream? I'm going to work hard doing something anyway, so might as well do it now. So I think the approach that you take, the confidence that you take, and the clarity that you have, because oftentimes we get into conversations like that and we've just never thought about it, so we don't articulate our points very well. And so if you just think about it and ask yourself some of those questions like, why am I doing it? What are the benefits? And you kind of get really clear on that, then that's all in the back of your mind, and it just comes out in a more concise, compelling manner when you say it.
So maybe building a better personal mission statement for yourself and for your family might be a good way to start with that, right? So you
Absolutely, yeah.
So you have some idea.
That's a great idea.
And so with the power of storytelling, tell us how we can become better communicators and tell our stories a little better.
Well, there's the science of storytelling, how you craft a story, and there's the art of storytelling. The art of storytelling, the truth is, it's just practice. You have to just work at it. You have to, and most people approach communication as something that they should just naturally do. Well, you have kids. I have kids, and we watch our kids struggle to learn how to speak and to articulate. We all struggle with that. So it takes practice, and it's a skill set, just like any other skill set. One of the things that I think is key, let's say you're going to share your story. Let's say you're a college student and you're trying to get into college, right? So part of the application process, part of that is always a question on, tell us your story, or tell us something about yourself that we should know, or where have you overcome a challenge, or something like that, right? One of the keys to stories, real stories, follow a pattern of struggle to solution. The struggle is the hook of the story. That's the emotional connection, right? Think about it as a movie. If we went to a movie and it was about a guy that just everything went perfect, there was no ups, no downs, everything was amazing, we would leave and go, that was the stupidest movie I've ever seen. I mean, it would just have no impact. We wouldn't even connect with it. It's the struggle of the ups and downs and the heartache and the overcoming that really gets us emotionally. So every story is struggle to solution, including mine and including yours. What we often do is we try and position ourselves from a position of power. And so we just say, I've done this and I'm amazing at this and I'm so great at this and this is, and everybody just kind of goes, yeah, who cares? It just doesn't, just doesn't come across.
That goes back to what you said, don't try to be interesting, but interested in others.
So if you share your story, because think about it, anything amazing that you've done is because you learned something new. Well, there was a struggle or a problem or something that you weren't doing right that caused you to shift your paradigm and learn that. And that's what changed your perspective, and that's what changed your experience, right? That's a struggle to solution type of story. I mean, and I mean that very sincerely. The whole premise of the power of influence is that it's not about you, it's about them. And I can share with you exactly where I learned that and how it shifted the way that I interacted with people. That it was so profound for me that's why I wanted to share it with other people. And some of the things that I started doing that really started making an impact and therefore built a successful business because I grew my influence. Same thing with storytelling. As I go throughout that, I share a ton of stories that I use in different ways and different capacities to illustrate the points that I'm teaching on how to tell those stories. But it's because I struggled with it and I had to learn it. And once I figured it out, it worked and it helped me. That's the truth of our realities. But yet when we go to tell our story, we don't typically share that. If we would, it would make a bigger impact.
kind of going off of that, give us some ideas of what some of your struggles have been, or maybe some failures as a young entrepreneur, and then also what you learned from that.
Oh, that is a long list. And it continues to today. Things are going really well. I've built some successful businesses, and so I'm not complaining for any reason, but it's just a day-to-day, the struggles that we all have of different things, the ups and the downs. One thing that just comes to mind, I mean, as a young entrepreneur, I think the thing that most people have to overcome, the biggest thing, is their own personal struggle of believing that they can do it and the desire and confidence to keep going.
So for discouragement, basically.
Yeah. I mean, I had naysayers. I had people who told me I couldn't do it. And most of the time I didn't listen to them. I'll tell you just a quick story. As we built our business, it grew internationally. I went over to Russia on one trip. I've been to a lot of places around the world. This particular trip in Russia, long story short, was a disaster. It was just nothing worked. None of the contacts worked out. We weren't doing any business. It was a big waste of time and money. And at a stage in my business that I couldn't afford to waste time or money. And I was literally on a Russian train in the middle of Russia. This is a 12-hour train ride from Saratov down south back to Moscow to fly home. And I was so discouraged. I mean, and that for me was the first time I think I really started listening to all those naysayers. I was sitting there going, what in the world am I doing? I'm in the middle of Russia on a train. I mean, I'm so like, what am I even doing? And I really started to question myself. And we all have those times. We all have times that it hits us for whatever reason. And for me, that was probably one of the loneliest, challenging experiences for me personally, because I just felt like I was done. I didn't have any more, and I felt so discouraged. And what changed things for me was a change in perspective. Sometimes we have to physically do things to change our situation. So, I mean, I was laying on this cot that was like a piece of plywood, and I finally I was out of movies and music and anything to distract me, and my thoughts were getting the better of me. And so I pulled out a pen and a piece of paper, and I sat up and I shifted my energy, and I wrote at the top of that piece of paper one of my favorite sayings. I said, when you're interested, you do what's convenient. When you're committed, you do whatever it takes.
Oh, I love that.
And I titled my paper that, and then I rewrote my goals. And I wanted to shift my mindset. And to be honest, it really didn't work. And so throughout those goals, I started writing all these other quotes. I love quotes, and I love reading and just putting good things in my mind. So I wrote the quote by David Brinkley that said, "A successful man is one who can build a house with the bricks that others throw at him."
Oh, that's great too.
And I put that on there. And then Les Brown had told me a quote one time that I wrote on that piece of paper that said, "Other people's opinions of you do not need to become your reality." And and then I just wrote out all my goals and just recommitted. And I came back. Honestly, I came back from Russia a different person. That trip changed our business, not because we did any business there. It changed me, and it changed my confidence, and it changed my approach, and it changed the commitment that I had and how I did it. So, I mean, that's one struggle of a billion struggles that, and maybe a little bit bigger struggle, because I really was at a point where I was done. I was just going, this isn't worth it, or I just don't think this is going to work out. And it's funny how we lose track of that. The truth is our business was doing great in the United States. It just wasn't going to do anything in Russia. It just was, and so in my mind, though, you go to that place of, oh, I'm failing everywhere. This isn't going to work. And you just kind of have to take a step back and take a breath and figure out really what you want to go do. And so that's one of those times for me that was a real struggle that turned into one of the cooler experiences of my life because of it.
Yeah, I love how you use that internal struggle that you were fighting with to create and to refocus yourself. I think many times as parents, we kind of have to do that, when we figure out, especially when you're doing, like I said, some alternative education that makes people look at you and think, and then you have to question your own self. But I love how you turn that around and use it for positive. Before we go on, let's take a minute and hear about our sponsors.
Hey, Firestarters, this is Mark, producer of The Luminous Mind. If you're like me, the thought of going out to the store and shopping is enough to make you want to crawl in a hole and hide. If that's you, then do your shopping online through Amazon. Just go to theluminousmind.net, click on the Amazon link, and shop away. Also, most of the books and resources that Rebecca and her guests discuss can be found on our Amazon links as well. Again, if you're like me, you have already accidentally signed up for Amazon Prime. So most of those purchases should have free shipping as well. Good luck!
Let's have a toast. Let our voices ring. Let's
sing. Welcome back. The Luminous Mind with Ty Bennett. So what are some successes that you've seen because, you chose not to listen to those inner voices?
Well, I think that's key, isn't it? I mean, ultimately, we have to listen to the voice inside of us, and sometimes that's hard. And the positive voice inside of us, not just the negative one, because we all have that too. We built a great business, and that business is still doing well. I sold my part of it to my brother, and he's focused in there building that. And the truth is I wanted to follow my passion. I love speaking and training, and I've been able to grow an amazing business there and speak on some pretty incredible stages and around the world, and to companies that, the kind of companies that everybody would know their name. And it's amazing to me that I get a chance to do that. It's, crazy to me that, next week I'm speaking at an event where President Bush is the other speaker.
Oh, wow.
And it's, and that just seems so bizarre to me that, like we're going to hear from President Bush and this guy, Ty Bennett, that nobody knows who he is. But that side of it's pretty amazing. The other side of it that I think is really cool, and one thing I love being an entrepreneur is I love how my kids are starting to get it. Now, my kids are pretty young. My 8-year-old, my oldest, my daughter, so my older two kids, this last year brought them on a trip with me. I was speaking in Orlando, so they came on the trip and they sat through my speech, and then we went and did Disney World the rest of the day. And it was fun, but it was fun for them to see me do what I actually do, and to see, it was cool to have them sitting there and have me up on stage and have an audience engaged and give me a standing ovation and come up after for a book signing, and my kids are there, and just for them to kind of see what I do and it just starts. I think any entrepreneur, if you involve your kids in some ways, in the littlest ways you can, it gets them thinking. And my daughter asked me all sorts of different questions, and some that I don't even want to answer. Like, she goes, "What do people pay you to speak to them?" And I'm like, don't worry about it. But she
maybe later you'll tell.
yeah, but she'll ask different questions on how do you do this, or how, she's like, well, how come this group hired you? How did they know about you? And like, she's just starting to get her mind thinking that way. I love that. I think that's fantastic. And
I actually think that's one of the travesties of our society anymore, is that we separate our personal life or our professional life from our children. And I think you have so many things that you can teach them on what you're doing. And I think that that's going to be a powerful influence in their life when they're younger or when they get older. But to be able to do that when they're young. Yeah,
it's a fun thing. And for me, it's just, I want my kids to think that way. I want them to be, creative and innovative and think about how they solve problems and how they can use their talents and where they get it gets them excited, what they want to do. So that's a fun aspect to me.
So what are some personal habits that help to make you successful, and habits that you maybe seen in other people that might make them successful as well?
Well, there's a lot. For me, I I think that I get up early. I wake up early and I try and get my day going and really focused. Everybody kind of has their own morning routine, but I would assess that and really look at it. Does it start your day right? Planning is a huge habit, and my wife and I kind of have found our own way that we do that, and we have a huge whiteboard calendar that we have right outside of our bedroom in kind of this little office area, and so we plan everything out on that over the month, and we look at it weekly, and then every night we talk about what our plan is. And I think planning is vitally important. I think just work ethic. I think that's one of the things I honestly think that we're lacking now more.
Yeah.
And I have never claimed to be the smartest person. I have never claimed to be have any amazing talents. I wish I did, but I work extremely hard. My parents taught us how to work, and I'm appreciative of that. But anything great in your life takes hard work. I mean, being a parent takes incredibly hard work, right?
Yeah.
If you're going to do it at a high level, and you and so many of your listeners have chosen to engage in the educational part of parenting in a way that most people don't, and that requires even more from you, which good for you. That it just recognize that it requires that you work hard and put in even more effort. But the reward is fantastic. Anything great requires extremely hard work. Another habit that I think is really important is I found for me, I have mastermind groups that I'm a part of, and these are people that I associate with, and some of them more formally than others, but reach out to on a regular basis, talk to, share openly with, get their advice, and they do the same. That's been so vitally important for me in the growth of my business and myself. And I would look at doing that. Who are some of the people that you would love to have a closer, more intimate relationship with, that you associate with, that you share openly, that you get their advice on a regular, consistent basis, and set something up like that. That's been one of the coolest things for me. I have a mastermind group that I'm a part of right now that's 5 other speakers. We talk monthly and meet at least yearly for a couple days retreat, and these are some of my very best friends that I would share anything and everything with, but I also get amazing advice, both personally and professionally from them. So that for me is something that I think I see a lot of successful people do. I read about it in books, but when I started doing it, it really made an impact for me.
And the mastermind group is what the Luminous Mind hopes to be for homeschoolers or educational people.
No,
that's why we have
great
wonderful
to come together.
people. Yeah, that's why we have wonderful people like you come on and help us and encourage us. So let's see. So what is one thing that you're doing that you're most excited about, like right now? And maybe give us some of your long-term goals of what you want to accomplish.
Okay. So I have a new book coming out in May, and that I'm pretty excited about. And this is a little bit different genre because I wrote it with 2 other people, and it's a business fable. So it's a made-up story that teaches some great lessons. And it's a little bit different area because it's called The 2 Most Important Days of Your Life. And it's really about finding purpose in your life. It's based off of a quote by Mark Twain that says the 2 most important days of your life are the day you're born and the day you discover why. So
I really like that.
I'm excited about that book just from the impact that I think it can make on people. I think it's a story that people will really resonate with. I think it's a message that people need. So I'm excited about that. And then I've got another leadership book that will come out the beginning of next year. So I've got a lot of things in the works from that standpoint, and I'm excited about that. I plan on continuing to write books and speak to people and do that as long as I love it and as long as I can, I guess.
Well, and I love, I think that book what you're talking about, I think your book is going to be more influential even past the business side of it,
for sure.
Because one of the most important things I think you can do, even as parents, is to find what we're passionate about and to move in that direction, to figure out why we were born and take our lives in that direction.
Yeah, and
That's awesome.
the story really lends to the younger market. It's about the main character is a teacher who basically it comes out as he's giving a commencement address to high school graduates, and so I think there's kind of a lot of the younger market, graduates from high school, college in that area that I think will really resonate with the book well too.
That sounds amazing. So what is some advice or encouragement that you would give someone who's just starting out, maybe either, a young entrepreneur or someone who's just taking a different approach maybe?
So I think just along those lines, as we were talking about the book, I think that's one of the biggest keys is figure out what you're all about and who you are. Figure out what your talents are and how you can use those. Figure out what you're passionate about. Figure out what you really value most and do not compromise that. Just live those things. If you value, the freedom and flexibility of it, then own it and just go with it. And that's what you're choosing to do. I think that is so key because once you have a sense of purpose there, you have a level of commitment. I shared that quote earlier, when you're interested, you do what's convenient. When you're committed, you do whatever it takes. I think that's just the truth to be successful in anything. I really don't care what it is. You have to be committed at a level that most people are not. And so understanding your purpose and what drives you will really create that commitment and move you forward.
So do you have a favorite book or resource that you want to share? We've talked about a few of yours, but maybe a book that you've learned a lot from.
Oh, I have so many. It's funny. I had a friend reach out this morning via email and said his daughter is just starting a business of her own and asked for some books in that genre. So I told her to start with the book The Greatest Secret in the World by Og Mandino. And it is... So there's a book called The Greatest Salesman in the World, but
that's the one I've read.
The Greatest Secret in the World is basically the journal version of that book. So you take that book and you make it a little bit more interactive, but he has 10 scrolls in there that really it's designed to read one of those scrolls daily for 30 days and try and put that habit in place. And it's awesome. It's a really, really great book. So there's a lot of books that I can recommend, but that's fresh in my mind.
Great. Thank you. So what changes would you like to see in the future, just in the world in general?
A lot. I think the biggest thing that comes to mind for me is I think our society, and specifically in the United States, I think we are really struggling with taking ownership and accountability for who we are and what we do.
Oh, I love that. I agree with that.
I think we have too much victim mentality and too many people who think that life should be handed to them and somebody else should be in charge of it. I think that's really hurting our society.
Well, and when you take responsibility for your life, things that you can control and change, and then finally go, okay, I want to change that about myself, we create a environment where we allow ourselves to grow and to continue to progress. And I think in the United States, like you said, if we don't finally just take responsibility and put some personal ownership into it, we will see an increase in decline versus growth. That's my own personal opinion. But
I completely agree.
So before we say goodbye, is there any extra parting words of advice that you want to give? Another favorite quote, since you're so great at that. And then let us give us your contact information of how we can get in touch with you and learn more about what you're doing.
I'm pretty easy to find. My website is just tybennett.com, tybennett.com. So you can find me there and connect with me kind of everywhere from that site. I'm all over social media and all of that too. Favorite quote, I'll give you probably my all-time favorite quote is the greatest loss in life is the difference between human potential and actual performance.
Well, thank you so much for joining us today. I always learn so much from all the guests that I have. I always feel like I'm the white belt, talking to all these black belt superstars. So I appreciate you coming on with us. And I definitely let us know when, your new book comes out. I think that we could talk about that. That would be just an amazing experience.
Awesome. Well, keep doing what you're doing. Thanks for having me. It's a great thing that you're doing for people.
Thank you. Thank you for listening to The Luminous Mind. To learn more about Ty Bennett, go to our website, theluminousmind.net. When you're there, use the Amazon widget and purchase Ty's best-selling books, The Power of Influence and The Power of Storytelling, The Art of Influential Communication. Also, like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter and Google+, get our audio content by subscribing on iTunes and YouTube. Light minds on fire and change the paradigm of education.